Hello, thank you for tuning in live. We are going to have everything crossed that this works this time. I have not done these little interviews for a little while, but we're having a little bit of a shift and a change with everything. And now within the coaching group, each month I'm welcoming in new guest experts to come in and teach some of their incredible magic and share it with my guys. So not only am I sharing so much work within the Get It Girl community that, let's see if this is going to work this time. Brònagh is here. So Brònagh Lyons is our first expert. I'm going to try and get her on straight away because this doesn't work. She's going to come. It's going to work. And I'll let her do the introductions. Oh my God, yay!
Oh my God, it worked. Hello, Emma. Thank you so
Hi.
much for your patience. I don't know what was going on there.
So much. Just thank you so much for bearing with us, and I hope everybody comes back on because we had a few people on before, but thank you and welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you. So I just mentioned briefly that you are a power and connection specialist. So for anybody who is coming on live, if you've got any questions as we go through, make sure that you post them in the comments and hit us up on the like button as well, because it does help us to reach more people and of course share it with everyone you know. So Brònagh, thank you so much for taking the time to come and join us this evening. So please tell people a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much, Emma. So I'm Brona. I'm a power and connection specialist, as Emma mentioned, and I help empaths or people that are highly intuitive, highly sensitive to energies, to people, to surroundings, to animals, etc., to connect into their inner brilliance and to create the epic life that they know that they're here to live. And Emma did mention in the last video that a lot of people feel that, you know, their sensitivity or their intuition or the fact that they have a big heart is a weakness or it's a fault or it's something that they need to improve on or change. And that's something that in my youth I would have thought of as well, but I really challenge that with the people that I work with and the people that I talk to, because actually I see it as a superpower. The issue is if we don't know how to harness it, if we don't know how to really use it to the best that we can, how to channel it, it can become a big vulnerability, it can become a big weakness, but that's because it's also got so much power in being a strength as well. So I really just help people to recognize their own brilliance and what it is that they have inside of themselves, and really just connecting back in. I feel as well that a lot of people feel that they have to look externally to find things that are going to make them better and stuff, but actually not just empaths, but as people as a whole, we have so many strengths inside of ourselves. So I really work with people to connect into their brilliance and the power that they already have, and to create what it is that they truly want, because most people actually don't even know what they want. So yeah, it's very kind of like bringing everything back to basics and stuff like that. So that's what I do.
Yeah, I love how you've really niched in on, working with empaths. And we all as coaches, we tend to come into these things because we have been faced with these specific challenges. Like I work with introverts, and so I'd love to know how this showed up maybe for you in your childhood, and that what really came as some of the big challenges that made you think, God, this is something that I've managed to overcome. And like you say, you've turned of what a lot of people perceive as a negative into a really positive, and now you help with other people as well. So do you have any like really key moments in your childhood when something like quite significant happened for you? So just gives people something to relate to and maybe think, oh my God, yeah, I really struggle with that too.
I feel for myself, especially as a young child, like I just wanted to be everyone's best friend. I just wanted to be loved, to be accepted, and I was just very sensitive to what people would say to me and how they would react to me, etc., etc. And like I feel empaths and people that are highly intuitive or highly sensitive to energies, um, most people don't really understand them, so they just think like, oh, they're crybabies or they're this or they're that or they're whatever, or like, you know, they need to toughen up and they need to do all this sort of stuff. And that kind of tends to be where a lot of people feel that they have a problem that needs to be fixed, or that they are a problem that needs to be fixed, and you know, they start changing their behaviors and stuff to suit the people around them. And that was definitely me as a child, because I just never felt understood really. You know, I was always really sensitive to how other people were feeling, you know, what was going on in different situations, different environments. I was always really compassionate to others. You know, if we were in a group and there was someone walking behind us, like I'd always wait back with the person so they wouldn't be alone. So I was just really hyper aware of what was going on in my surroundings. And I just found that like a lot of people weren't like that. Like, and that doesn't mean that they're bad people or whatever, but it's just they weren't conscious of different things that were going on around them. So this has just been something that's been going on my whole life. But if you think about school, like in family, and then with friends and with teachers and with just different like their classmates, and then when you start going into work and you're in the workplace and stuff like that, and when you are just kind of hyper aware of your surroundings and what's going on, and you start to realize that other people aren't, you know, what you do can be very taken for granted as well. And I think empaths or people that are highly sensitive tend to fall victim to being the doormat and being taken for granted and falling into toxic relationships, often because we're hyper aware of things. We can feel like we want to help people, so we end up being in relationships where maybe we're the giver. There's a lot of codependency, lots of people pleasing involved, and yet it just kind of can spiral a lot into different situations. And that doesn't mean that you're a bad person because you want to help people, but it's kind of a case of I think we tend to want to change ourselves to suit other people because we want to belong and we want everyone to accept us and like us. And that's really just not realistic, and it's not feasible. And, you know, a lot of people just are not going to like other people anyway. So, but we tend to, because we're highly sensitive and stuff, we tend to place a lot of energy on our surroundings and what's going on around us. So yeah, it's been very prevalent for me like my whole life. I remember actually a good few years ago now, 6, 7, 8 years ago, when I was doing my NLP practitioner course. So I have a degree in psychology, and then I went on to NLP, and I actually went into fitness as well. So I was going to do a lot of work in mental health through diet and exercise and NLP and mindset. So I was doing my NLP course, and even at that stage, I had a huge issue with myself and my big heart. And I remember during the NLP course, they were doing kind of like live NLP training on the people in the room. And I was up on the top and I was just crying, and I was like, oh, but I wish I just wasn't so sensitive and I wasn't so weak. And I wish that, like, you know, I just, you know, wasn't crying so much and all this sort of stuff. And everyone was like, but it's a really big strength to have a big heart. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, it's not, you know, but like I was so conditioned to feel that I had to be tougher, I had to be stronger, I had to whatever. That I truly, that was a belief system that I had. And it was only when I really realized, like, whoa, you know, what we have naturally as empaths, people would pay a lot of money for it. Like, you know, the skills that we can have and what we can bring to different situations. Take one example, like the corporate world. Like, we have incredible skills naturally that people pay a lot of money to go and to train on and to work on and to practice and stuff. And for us, it's just natural. So it's really about taking all of that back and being like, actually, I have a lot to give the world, and I have a lot that I can contribute, and a lot that, you know, we tend to have, be visionaries as well. Like, you know, we have an idea of like what we can contribute and stuff. So when we really embrace the power that we have, and allow ourselves to work with it, then we can create incredible changes in the world. But I don't know if that answered your question, but
yeah, it does. I mean, I'd like to hear a bit more about your background, because you did go into corporate, didn't you, before you went into coaching? Is that right?
Yeah, so I have a bit of a funny background. So I went into psychology, so I did a psychology degree. And then from there, I suppose I went in with the idea of doing counseling psychology and helping people in that sense. And then while I was in college, I faced my fear. I was crippled with fear, but I faced my fear of like exercising, of sweating in public, all this sort of stuff. And I went really into fitness. And it was around the time of my final year in college, and we were looking at positive psychology and health psychology and sports psychology. And I was like, whoa, there's this whole other world that I didn't know of, because psychology is so broad. So when I graduated from my degree, I went on and studied everything I could about like the anatomy and biomechanics and nutrition and everything I could. And I went into personal training and working people through NLP and stuff, as I said. I did that for a year, realized it wasn't for me. And then I ended up in the corporate world. So I ended up actually in a cybersecurity company. I went from a complete newbie as a PA to the CEO to like director of operations within a year and a half. And I just loved it. It was so fast paced. The CEO was great. He kind of just took me under the wing and he taught me so much. But I just thrived in that environment. And it was around the time that I started doing a lot of personal development as well. So it was about a year and a half, 2 years of just like exponential growth, which was crazy. But yeah, it was a lot in the corporate world. I loved it. It was very like solution focused, strategy focused, which I love. I'm a very practical person, so everything for me has to be tangible. Like I need to see results. I need to, know where we're going. I need to have like a strategy in place. So I think that's something as well for me when it comes to coaching. It's like I'm not just here to like talk things out, and that's kind of ingrained in me from my psychology degree as well, because the psychology and the university that I went to, the psychology department was very big on scientific side of psychology, as opposed to kind of sitting down and talking about your feelings and stuff, which of course there's nothing wrong with that, but they were very focused on like, okay, how can we empirically prove and scientifically prove that certain things like human behavior and neuropsychology, all this sort of stuff. So that was kind of in my head anyway as I was going through. So even when I was doing cybersecurity, it was big on psychology, of like the psychology of hackers and reverse engineering different things and stuff like that. So yeah, I was in corporate for a year and a half, and then I left and I went into the travel industry, which I love because I love traveling. So I could talk about travel all day.
Yeah, well, I actually
and
want to
then
ask you about that, because you live in China. Well, you're in Ireland at the minute, where you're originally from,
yes,
but you live in China. Like, what's with
yes,
that? Like, what took you to China? Because it's like, I don't know. It seems like an incredible place
random.
to live. Yeah, but yeah, a little bit random. How come you
Yeah.
left?
Yeah, so like I around that time that I started in the psychology or in the cybersecurity company, and I started doing a lot of personal development, I also started traveling a lot. I suppose when it came to the end of me working as a personal trainer, it was the first time I was kind of a bit lost. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I was always a woman with the plan, but this time I was kind of at crossroads, and I was like, no, enough is enough. And it was around that time that I really started taking control of my life back. I was very much living in victimhood up to that point. Everything was dependent on other people. My happiness was dependent on other people. If I wasn't happy, it was someone else's fault, etc., etc. So I got to the point where I just started taking control, taking responsibility of like how I had contributed to me being in certain situations, or how I had contributed to people treating me a certain way, etc.,
And was
etc.
the key shift in that? Did that become from doing like the self-development work? You just thought, oh my God, this is what I'm doing. Now I've got the awareness of it. Now I can shift it. Or was there any
It
specific
was
moment?
actually before.
Right.
Yeah, it was actually before. I had just come out of like this toxic relationship. Now, to be fair, I'm sure he is a lovely person, but the situation that we had created together, with my lack of awareness and me wanting to please other people, etc., etc., it turned into a very toxic relationship, and that kind of finished at the same time that I was finishing up in the gym, and I was just everything was just kind of like at a loose end and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, why is he such a bad person, and why didn't that work out, and blah blah blah. And then I was just like, no, enough is enough. Like, actually, I allowed him to treat me a certain way. I allowed certain things to happen and stuff. And it was that kind of click for me that actually propelled me to go into personal development. So it was funny. I kind of had that first, and then I started the corporate job. I started personal development, and then I started traveling a lot as well, because I was always kind of like, oh yeah, I'd love to travel, like in the future, in the future, in the future. So I was like, no, I'm going to start doing it now. And living somewhere like Ireland or the UK, like you're right beside Europe as a continent. So you could literally just be ticking off countries left, right, and centre. And I had been for a few years. I was traveling like I'd been to 26 countries or something. And I remember getting one of those scratch maps and thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to scratch out all the countries I've been to. And then I did, and I became very aware of how small Europe is compared to the rest of the world. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get out of Europe. So then I was always one for doing something different anyway. So I just decided one day that me and my husband were moving to China. He had no idea what was going on. And then like a couple of days later, he went into work and they were like, hey, there's a company in China that needs experienced engineers. Does anyone want to go? So he was just like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so it kind of just manifested and it just happened. And we've been there a year and a half now, and just kind of traveling around Asia and just experience like
Can you
completely
speak
different culture.
Chinese?
EDN, just a tiny
Yeah.
bit. I've been learning since getting there, but more so as a hobby than anything. But I knew no Chinese other than ni hao, which is hello, before I went there. So I knew absolutely nothing. But you get by, like it's so interesting, and I love it. Like I would highly recommend China to anyone. It was funny actually, it's been a big um eye opener for me as well, just on my own self and kind of judgments that we make. Like I would always have called myself like very open minded, like non judgmental, etc., etc. But I had this vision of China being kind of grey, concrete jungle, dirty, smoggy, overpopulated, all this sort of stuff. Like, you know, I still wanted to go, I still went, but that was my kind of vision of what it was going to be like. And then I went there, and it's beautiful, and it's really green, and everyone's real nice, and there's no drugs, and there's no crime, and everyone's so helpful. And they put so much emphasis on like nature and making parks and stuff. And there might be a certain population in China, but the country is so big. I highly underestimated how big the country is. Like, it's got a desert, it's got mountains, it's got everything in China. So like, because it's so vast, you don't even see people. I was just like blown away, and it really showed me how I had been judging something and I had no idea
Not
about, you know.
experience.
So yeah, that's how we ended up in China. So we're very open to see stuff, but we just absolutely love traveling. So I went over there, and people just kept asking me like, "Are you coaching? Are you coaching? Are you coaching?" And I was like, I'm not coaching. I'm not coaching." My husband kept saying, "Brona, just like start coaching people," because I had been doing stuff, and I was like, "No, I've no interest in it." And then one day, this girl just messaged me, like, "Brona, are you doing any coaching at the moment?" And I was like, "No." And then I started thinking, I was like, well, if she wants it, maybe I'll do it just for her. And then that kind of opened my mind up to like, okay, well, if I was to create a program just for her, how would that look? And then that just manifested into me becoming like a confidence coach for women and for men, which I was doing for the past year. And then it just transitioned into empaths, because the more I was doing it, the more I started just really realizing the kind of people I was attracting, what my specialities are. And then it's just kind of ballooned since then. So it's really funny the journey that you can go on, and like
Yeah.
how different things will bring in different places. But I definitely attribute like all the experience that I've had, even in the personal training, even in the corporate world, and even traveling, to what you can bring to someone, because your mind and the perspective that you have is just so different for every experience that you have. So
Yeah, and I
yeah.
mean, I'm so huge on like setting goals, but I can, I set goals, but even when I moved out to France, like moving to France was never on the goals list. I think it's important to have these goals, but to,
Yeah.
always be open to being flexible and really going with
Mm-hmm.
wherever life takes you. And I love that it's really brought you into this place that has, true passion and meaning for you. I'd love to know, like, what are some of the key tools or resources that you do that are specific for empaths in helping them to connect with what you call their superpower? What are some of the most powerful tools that you've come across?
Yeah, a lot of what I say to my clients, and I have a free Facebook group that's in, and I do lots of free coaching in there. And the main thing for me is journaling. I just feel like journaling is such a powerful tool, and that a lot of people don't do it, and it can also be quite uncomfortable if you're not used to doing it. Like, oh my God, like this is so awkward sitting down with a pen and paper. What am I going to write? Or some people are like, oh no, it's grand, I have it in my head, or oh, I'll type it up on my laptop, or I'll text it onto my phone, or I'll send myself voice notes or whatever. We have this resistance to doing it for some reason, and I always feel that like that's because we know deep down how powerful it is. And I feel like when you put pen to paper, it's just an emotional connection that you can't put into words. It's really strange, but like for me, I think journaling is such a fantastic tool for that, because you really get to connect into yourself and like what you're feeling, what your thoughts are. And like when you're just brain dumping, you're just like releasing. There's so much stuff that's going on in our heads. And I think especially as empaths, like we're so hypersensitive to things, and we're very prone to overwhelm, to anxiety, to panic attacks, etc., etc., because we have so much going on and we're not outputting it as much as we're inputting it. So I feel like journaling, or if you're an artist painting or drawing, or if you're like musical, like singing or writing music, or whatever that output is for you, to be able to do that, and just to release as much as possible and really connect into yourself is so important. Meditation obviously is so key as well, and just things that make you feel good, because I feel as well, as empaths, as I said, we kind of like we take in so much. It's important for us to take time to just be present with ourselves, and just to really allow ourselves to be and to connect in with who we are, and to become into an alignment. If you can even do like a grounding meditation, it's so powerful for us, because you know I feel like when we wake up in the morning, our energy and everything is just kind of like out into the air and into the open. So if we don't do something to ground ourselves, the moment we wake up, we check our phone, we're like downloading all the information that we're getting on our phone into ourselves. we're getting up, we're having conversations, we're rushing around, we're looking at our agenda and what we have to do that day, we're going out to work, or we're doing whatever we're doing, and we're just taking in all of this information, and that's where a lot of the overwhelming stuff comes from. Whereas if we can take time to really just take a couple of minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, to just really ground yourself, then and set your intentions for that day, then whatever comes of that day, you're just a lot more solid and a lot stronger and able to respond to things as opposed to react to things, which I think, like, this isn't really empath specific, like this is humans, like, you know, anyone can take this on, but especially empaths, because we are so highly sensitive and intuitive to what's going on. It's so important. And then obviously as well, some kind of like protection mechanism. So I talk to my clients and stuff about a visualization, to just surround yourself with a shield. And even if you're going into a situation or a conversation, or you're meeting up with someone that you feel might be energetically draining, to be able to some kind of way of like protecting yourself with a shield visually, is going to help so much. Just allow people's words or energies just to bounce off, so it's not even hitting you or affecting you. These are just really simple things that you can use to really propel you forward in your day-to-day life, which is just going to make you so much easier. But I'll always come back to journaling, because it's just so important to just release and let go. I feel like if you're holding on to so much, it can get really foggy. I nearly see it as a fog. But once you release it and let it go onto the paper, you just get so much clarity. You're able to let go of things, and then you can see what's important, what isn't, and you're able to then think about where to go and where to progress from there. So yeah, lots of journal, meditation, visualization, setting your intentions, just being really hyper aware of yourself and what it is that you want, and not allowing yourself to get drawn in or manipulated into different situations, which we could naturally end up doing.
I think that's a huge thing for empaths and people that take on other people's energies, is to get like clear with like what's yours and what's other people's. And I'm a huge, like, journaling is like my favorite thing in the entire world. It is just so powerful. Like everybody needs to be doing it. And if people want to find out more from you, where can they reach you out? Obviously I'm going to tag your page in and your free group in on the links after we get off the call, but if anybody wants to head over to your website or anything, do you want to just...
my website's currently in construction, and it has been for a couple of months now. The joys of China, and this has actually been a blessing as well. It's just a good teaching point that, like, you know, you come up with these obstacles, but there's such a fantastic way to find a workaround and become solution focused. So China obviously has a huge internet ban, so there's been lots of restrictions and stuff in terms of websites. However, if you join the free group, there's free coaching in there. It's a fantastic community and people in there. But also I've got, I just actually released it yesterday, the day before. I have this 5-part free audio series, and it goes through a lot of what I mentioned there about like journaling, meditating, protecting yourself, etc., setting your intentions for the day. So I have that for free. So if you want, I can pop a link to that as well.
You send me the link, then I'll stick it onto the video and we can put that on.
Yeah, perfect.
Another couple of, just to finish off on, I wanted to ask you if you have a favorite mantra or quote that is specific to like working with empaths, or something that you remind yourself on that like fires you up to be like, yes, I have completely got this, I can deal with anything. Just something that really resonates with you.
Mine is always, my favorite quote is so simple. It's actually, awareness is key. And I heard this when I was like 15, 16, when I was totally unaware of myself or what was going on around me. And someone just kept saying that to me: awareness is key, awareness is key, awareness is key. And the more I've gone on my journey, the more I've found the depth in that. So such a simple quote, but it's so strong, because when you become aware of yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, why you're feeling a certain way, when you become aware of like other people and the world and the environment and your culture and your society and all this sort of stuff, your level of understanding just increases dramatically. And when your level of understanding increases, then you're less likely to become triggered or to react to things, because you understand why certain people are behaving a certain way. You understand why you're getting an emotional or physical response to a certain thing. You understand why things are the way they are. So for myself, it's awareness is key, because just always becoming aware of like, okay, actually this thing is really annoying me. Why is this thing annoying me? And taking it out of the situation and more into yourself. Like, what is it within me that's becoming annoyed by this thing, for example? And when you start getting that awareness, you're like, whoa, okay. And all of a sudden that stuff doesn't annoy you as much, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm only getting annoyed because of blah, blah, blah. So it actually just makes life so much more interesting, but also a lot easier to comprehend and to understand. Another real like practical application of that is, years ago, I was quite depressive and social anxiety and all this sort of stuff. And I remember going years later to a medical kind of exam thing that you just pay for, and they do like all these different things on you. And I found out that I had low blood pressure, and that I should be eating for my heart like multiple small meals a day as opposed to big meals a day, and the effect of having lack of sleep will have on me emotionally. And I was also vitamin D deficient, and there was all of this sort of stuff going on. And I started looking into all of this, and I was like, okay, so when you're vitamin D deficient, that's going to cause a lot of, like, you're quite sad, lethargic, fatigued, all this sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. If I lack in sleep, what kind of emotional effect is that going to have on me? If I have a low blood pressure, what kind of emotional effect is that going to have on me? And I was like, if I was aware of all of these things when I was younger, and I was able to like combat these small simple things, like take a vitamin D supplement, like how could this have helped me so much in how I was trying to cope with different things that were happening? And that's just something so small and so practical, but has huge impact. And if you're not aware of it, then you don't know that, like, okay, all I need is a vitamin D tablet, and all I need to do is get to sleep a bit earlier. Do you know what I mean? And that was going to dramatically help me.
Our bodies are always, always, always speaking to us, but how many people just go through the motions, just thinking, oh, I'm tired, or this is wrong with me, and actually never really thinking like, okay, what's causing this, and what can I do to actually improve it? So yeah, just having that awareness, like, light bulb.
Yes. It's so empowering, and it's just really taking responsibility for yourself, and just being like, if something is causing an effect within you, it's again just going back to taking responsibility for yourself, and like, right, why am I having this effect? Because it's not about that thing, whatever that is, because that thing could cause different reactions in multiples of people. So it's not the thing, it's the person. So it's like really coming back into yourself, like, why am I feeling this way, or why is this happening, or why am I finding this so difficult, or why did I find that so easy? It doesn't have to be a negative thing. Like, why is it that it's easier for me than it is for other people? And just having that level of awareness for everything is just going to make life so much better. So that would be my quote, for sure.
Awesome. That's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Thank you for everybody who has come on. If you do, I see just a few comments and questions coming in. Both me and Brnagh will go in afterwards and answer any questions. If you're watching on the replay as well, do still ask questions, because we'll come back in and check. And of course, do reach out to Brnagh, message her, connect with her page, with her group. And thank you so much for coming and tuning in with us this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the session, and you can expect to see more of these. And and of course, thank you so much, Brnagh, for sharing some of your magic with us. It's been awesome to get a little bit of more of an insight into the work that you do. So we're going to wrap it up, and we'll look forward to connecting with you all. Go on.
And just, Emma, I just want to say thank you so much for the work that you do. Obviously, you work with introverts. A lot of empaths are introverts, and it's so important, the work that you do. And I already know that you are helping so many people. You're running retreats, etc., that are selling out, which is fantastic. And you're doing absolutely incredible work. So, I mean, if you are watching this and you're already working with Emma, like, I'm sure you've your own testament to that, but if you're not and you're thinking about it, I would definitely recommend working with Emma, because she is just an incredible person. She's changing a lot of people's lives. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Oh, that's so kind. You're so awesome. We only have awesome people on here. Thank you so much. Amazing. And I shall speak to you soon. And I know that the training that you sent for my guys as well, I got some great breakthrough moments in that as well. So absolutely same goes for you guys. And she's got an awesome free group that has free coaching sessions in as well. So do go and check her out, and we'll look forward to answering your questions and seeing what else that resonated with you guys. So thanks again, and I shall speak to you all soon. Bye.
Thanks so much, Emma. Take care. Bye.